Oh, yeah. Once more. We've got to break it down. Look, man, I got to tell you, maybe you've seen me say this already somewhere, but this was my favorite episode of Ahsoka so far. And I think it's the episode, for me, that solidifies the fact that Dave freaking Filoni, Dave mother-flipping Filoni, it's the only one. He's the only one that gets it. And he is the future of Star Wars. So, tonight, we're going to break down this episode. I want to talk through all my thoughts, all the different scenes. And I want to just explain why this is my favorite and why I love this episode so much. I watched this episode 3 times last night. It is... I love it! I love this episode a lot. So we're going to talk about it. But before we get into all that, I do want to say thank you to everybody that backed Unity. The Kickstarter wrapped up earlier today, raised just over 68,000, like over 800 backers. Incredible. I really appreciate it. So thank you, everybody that backed Unity. Had a cool stream earlier when we wrapped up the Kickstarter. I'm really excited. Talked to the team a little bit earlier today, and we're getting ready to do this thing. So thank you, guys. Unity on the way. So thank you. Pretty dope. Other than that, video I dropped earlier, kind of my initial breakdown, a lot of my thoughts go into that video. Tomorrow, I want to do a big video all about what is calling to Baylan. And it's one of the most intriguing aspects of this episode and kind of the show. You know what I mean? I've been seeing a lot of praise for Baylan and for Shin, and I gotta say, it's earned. It's very well deserved, in my opinion. These are incredibly interesting characters. Really didn't expect that. Really didn't expect these characters to be as cool as they are and to be as interesting and dynamic as they are. It's fantastic. But that's a big focus, I think, of this episode, and it's something I want to talk about in a full video. I think, just to kind of say it, I think it's a Rakatan. I think that somebody from the old Rakatan Empire is calling to Baylan. What do you guys think? What do you think it is? And also, somebody was correcting me earlier saying that it's not actually Baylan, it's Baylan. Baylan? To Bay or not to Bay? What do you guys think it is? The sun? Ooh, that would be interesting. Hope it's not the sun. Baylander, indeed. A Sith Lord. I don't know. We'll see, huh? Probably Palpatine. I did think that, and it would be kind of messed up. But here's the thing. Here's the reason we know it's not Palpatine. If it was Palpatine, then Thrawn would be working with him. Thrawn wouldn't be just trying to get out of there. Because I think Thrawn knows exactly what that is. The other thing that's really interesting, of course, is what are in the boxes that Thrawn is packing into his Star Destroyer. And it feels like it's obviously bodies, right? Because they say catacombs and they look like, they look like caskets. But what bodies? And for what purpose? Dead Night Sisters? Yeah, so dead Night Sisters, and you think they're just gonna... What the fuck? Yeah, Adam, what's in the box? Yeah, so if it's Night Sisters, then why are they taking them as bodies, and then they obviously plan to resurrect them or do something else with them, right? So why wouldn't they just resurrect them there? I think there's so many interesting things going on in this episode. Pretty interesting. Yeah, it's like, and this is why this is my favorite episode, because I think it works on this level of just a fun adventure. We're getting Thrawn, we're getting Ezra. Oh, that's great. But I think it's doing something. It's operating at a level that is really like high level kind of storytelling and like trying to pick things apart. I mean, one of the most interesting parts of Baylan is how like enamored by the whole thing he is. He's like really taken aback. And there's moments even when he's looking at the sculptures on the road where the bandits attacked Sabine. And he's just like caught up in that shit and like just going like through his own thoughts on the whole thing. It's incredibly interesting and compelling. It's like, what is that? And I don't know if you guys were feeling this, but it felt a little bit like Shin now is starting to, I don't necessarily want to say turn, but she's beginning to question her master. And I think she's beginning to question like what's going on over here. Because I think in some ways she thought she was being raised as a Jedi. It almost like comes out in this episode, right, where she says like me when he was talking about Ezra. And he kind of like reprimands her and scalds her, and he's like, no, like I trained you to be more than that. But through some of the questions she asked him about like the order and like this thing where she's like, I know no stories, and like it kind of felt like she was a little bit more nostalgic for the Jedi and the Jedi Order than even him. And she's obviously not as down with the witches. You know, she makes another comment about that in this episode, like even more witches. And she didn't like when she found out that Elsbeth was a witch either, right? So there's something really interesting going on with Shin, with Baylan, and what that's all going to be. You know what I mean? But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I would like to know, what's your score for Ahsoka? Maybe we should do the poll. Maybe we should pull it up, huh? Let's go to the polls. How did you feel about it? Loved it. Liked it. Meh. Hated it. Bam, there you go. Let me know. What did you think? How do you feel? How do you feel? Normally I like to ask that before I say my opinion on it, because I don't want to like get, you know, I really want to know like authentically what you guys think. But I really like this episode. Had to shout it from the rooftops right away. Can I tell you your arousal score? Absolutely, man. We'll get there, okay? Love the dark theme to this episode. This episode felt very dark. You know, there's a lot of aspects of this that felt very dark. And it was cool, man. It was cool. Yeah. Do you think Enoch will take off his helmet? I'm not sure. I mean, we'll talk about Enoch. Is Enoch just, is he dead? Is he like Marok? Like, what, you know, what is Enoch? Was he one of Thrawn's troopers? Was he not? What's the deal with that, you know? Loved. Okay, so this is pretty cool. 80% of you guys loved it. 16% of you liked it. There's only 4% at met. Now, we'll obviously wait to keep that up and see what you guys think, but that's a pretty high score. I think people are really liking it. Pretty cool. Okay, so here's what I think we should do then. Let's break it down. Let's go through the episode together and let us see how... What the fuck? Let's see how you guys feel about some of these different parts of it, okay? So we'll begin with this whole thing with Ahsoka, because as I said in the spoiler video that we did like Monday, which was like, you know, just last minute, I was like, okay, we'll talk about these spoilers because some new stuff that was out there. They Book of Boba Fetted her, and that means like this whole episode essentially is not about Ahsoka. And so my question is like, how'd you guys feel about this? Because was anybody upset that they Book of Boba Fetted her? Because I felt like this was the best usage of the Book of Boba Fett strategy that I've ever seen. You know? I was not upset at all. And I really enjoyed this first opening scene here. And it does kind of make sense because the rest of them are ahead of Ahsoka, right? They leave, and I don't know. How many days was Ahsoka, like, in the water? She was recovered for a full day. She may have been in the water for, like, 12 hours, 16 hours, or something like that. So you're talking maybe even a couple of days that Ahsoka was there before they actually get into the Purgle and get over there, right? So I liked it. I liked the intro. I wonder what you guys think, because, you know, with this part right here, right? Xu Wang is talking about the history of the galaxy, parts 1, 2, and 3. And he says, Ahsoka says, part 1 being the best, of course. What did you think about that? I almost felt like that was in Dave kind of saying the original trilogy is the best. You think that is that reaching too far? Because to me, it's like he's making a meta commentary on the different trilogies. Yeah, you guys got that too? Yeah, and I like the prequels. You know what I mean? But it's like, I think, especially somebody like Dave has such an affinity for that original trilogy and that ending, because the Return of the Jedi ending is the best ending of ever. It's the best ending. It's an incredible movie. So, yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. You know what I mean? That they would go that route or whatever. And Dave's like flexing his muscles here, like putting in a little meta commentary like that also expands the lore of the actual galaxy and of the Jedi. Because the other part that's crazy is like this character Hugh Jackman, this droid, super cool, and the fact that he's been around for like 30,000 years. I heard that somewhere. I actually don't know if that's confirmed by the show, but I think he's been around for like 30,000 years, and he's like 75% original parts. That's crazy, and he knows all these stories about the past Jedi and all of these different things. It's really, really interesting, man. So I like this character a lot, and the expansion of knowing about the Purgle in the old Jedi stories, right, is kind of fascinating. So I did like that, and I even like the little there's discussion of Sabine, the fated decisions, etc., right? And then it closes out with him saying a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, which is pretty interesting. And the title of the episode, I believe, isn't it Far, Far Away? Yeah. So, did anybody else see the video of Dave Filoni when he was at Star Wars Celebration? And he was on the main stage, and they were asking him about Ezra. And he was like, you know, doing that Dave thing, trolling everybody a little bit, you know, getting people riled up. And he said, do you really, really want to know where he's at? I know where he's at. Do you really want to know where he's at? And the crowd like went crazy. And Dave just said, far, far away. And that is, again, super crazy Dave Filoni thing, because he literally told us the title of this episode at Star Wars Celebration. Just wanted to point that out because it's cool as fuck. Anyway, then we get into the Sabine of it all and the adventure as they're traveling, right? And I like the cell. You know, we joked about how it was like the Star Wars prison or whatever. Baylan, of course, just doing his thing, dude. It's so damn sad about Rey just in general, but I mean, he left us with this performance that is, I mean, holy shit. This is an incredible performance. And even in these scenes, the little like looks and the way that he uses his facial expressions, it was pretty cool. Then we get in there and we get a little Purgle lore. I do wonder what you guys think of the Purgle. What do you think it means that they all travel to Peridea to die? What do you think it means that it's a graveyard? And also, one of the things that's really interesting is the Night Sister says, my ancestors were one of the first to ride them. Not the first, one of the first to ride them. So what do you think's going on? Salmon? Yeah, no, I mean, so I've seen people bring that up where they're like, okay, this is just maybe a natural thing. Maybe it is just natural that the Purgle jump from galaxy to galaxy and then they end up jumping here and dying, right? So it could absolutely be a natural process of their life cycle. Maybe that's just it. It is what it is. But there are a couple of things that make me think that's not what's going on. Number one, the Sea of Purgle that go with Ezra and I guess they're not a sea. What would you call them? Like a flock or whatever. The group of Purgle that first take Ezra and Thrawn to Peridea and the group of Purgle that just took Ahsoka have both old and young. A pod? Right on. Have old and young Purgle within that pod. So the young ones are going to die as well? Like, what's up with that? That doesn't necessarily make sense. I also found it to be pretty interesting that Thrawn ordered Morgan Elsbeth to fire on any Star Whales that showed up towards Peridea. Right? So, I don't know. I mean, again, it is possible that they're just going there and dying. Maybe that's just, it is what it is. It's a part of the cycle. It's the circle of life. And it moves up. You get the idea. But maybe something more is going on here. Perhaps whatever Baylan is hearing calling to him, maybe it has something to do with that. I don't really know. I'm pretty interested. It could be, I still like this idea that the Purgle are Yuuzhan Vong scout ships. If they are Yuuzhan Vong scout ships and biologically engineered to like go out there and scan things and come back with information, then it's possible that they've just served their purpose when they come back to the place where, I don't know, the Vong are or something like that. So maybe they're just engineered to do a track, check out all the galaxies, get some info, and then come back to Peridea and die. I don't know. I don't know how the Rakatan would deal with it. I mean, it's possible that like this is the Rakatan as well. Maybe but here's the thing: the Rakatan had technology, okay, and a lot of this like gold and a lot of this it feels like accurate to maybe the Rakatan. The Yuuzhan Vong, which there's never been a canon version of the Yuuzhan Vong. It's always been in Legends, but they despise technology. So they hate technology. So it's like hard for me to imagine, like, and perhaps it's both groups or it's a combination or it's like new canon changing or something like that. But it's like hard for me to imagine that it's the Rakatan using the whales, because I feel like the Rakatan is more like the actual Eye of Sion, the actual star maps and the technology, but then the Vong wouldn't work with the Rakatan. It's just like weird, like what the hell, you know what I mean? So I don't really know, but I do think it's fascinating, and I do think the shots of them coming, over this graveyard within that sort of cloud that's surrounding Peridea. I think these shots were spooky. I thought it was a really freaking cool idea and visually a really spooky way to enter the planet. Like, it's like the idea of a planet with a ring and you're coming through the ring and it's actually all bones and skeletons. That's a really cool visual idea. That is top-notch fantasy fun, you know? So I thought that was fantastic, and I loved, you know, the whole idea and the way that it happened. It was really, really cool. So then, you know, they get called down to the planet, or there's a beacon down there, and she gets brought up, and they do this little, you know, ship going off the side, which a lot of these shots are actually really, really great. Like, to be honest with you, the framing in this episode, the direction was fantastic. I'm not familiar with the gal that directed it, but she did a hell of a job, man. Hell of a job. It was really cool. We pull into these sequences within this sort of shuttle, right? And we're coming through the clouds and through the rain. I thought this entire sequence was incredible. There's so much like, what's it gonna look like, you know? And he's sort of teasing that, dangling that in front of us. It made for a really engaging experience watching it. And then you kind of come out of the rain, and there's these spooky statues right away. And this was obviously a design shot, but it's so interesting that they came pretty fucking close to one of these big old statues, you know? And, like, you're thinking as they're coming through the clouds, like, are they going to smash into something? Like, what the heck? And then, like, boom, one of those creepy-looking statues right there in your face. And, again, it evokes this sort of spooky, like, what is going on kind of idea. We get even more of the statues as you go over these sort of highland areas and the mountains. And then this shot right here, it looks like Minas Tirith. It looks like Mount Tantus a little bit. It looks like this big old spooky castle, this spooky thing built into the wall. I absolutely loved it, dude. I loved it. I was like, this is so damn cool looking. And so I'm like, at this point through the episode, like, to be honest with you, we haven't even really seen shit yet in the episode. We haven't even really done shit. And I'm already like, oh my God. Like, I'm already like murking out. Like, I'm absolutely losing it. And then she comes out, and the Night Sisters are like just there, bro. The Night Sisters are just like there. And this was a cool payoff shot. Like, it looked freaky. It had a weird vibe. And you're like, oh shit. Like, they're just there, bro. Like, oh damn. Like, shit, they're just there. And then she's walking up. I loved whatever these stupid balls were with the laser beams and whatnot. I thought it was freaking awesome. Really, really fun. And then the way they did the voices for the Night Sisters. Fantastic. Just fantastic, man. Spooky, Echo, the way they did even the cloaks. It's like, the vibes were so strong, man. The vibes were so strong, and it's really creepy, which is great. You know what I mean? Which is great. And then you get, more of the explanation here of, her being the ancestor, her hearing the dreams, Thrawn said you'd come. All these different things are starting to kind of come together. And then, of course, somebody stanks. Somebody stanks like a Jedi. Man, get this stinky ass Jedi out of my face. Basically what the sister said, And I like that too. I thought it was cool. And, dude, this shot right here with these, the way that they did the balls, like, floating through there. And it's like, it's a weird, like, filmy thing. I wonder if I'll get dinged if I show this. Okay, do you see how they have the depth of field set at just this one little spot, okay? And then they're gonna like crank it to pull her into focus. So like, watch this. Like, they're coming through and hitting that focus and hitting that level of focus, and then they basically go into it being focused around her. It's like, dude, like some legit tricky, fun cinematography done here. I was like, this is pretty fucking cool. And I really liked the laser beam, how they did all that. They take her out of there. It was dope as hell, man. And then then we get into an establishing shot of freaking wolves howling in front of the spooky ass mountain castle. Chef's kiss. Holy shit. At this point, I was losing my goddamn mind, dude. I was like, this is fucking incredible. And then in the middle of all that incredible, we get like a scene that has no right being as good as it is, and has no right being as interesting as it is. Fascinating scene as Baylan is just in fucking awe of this place and in his own world with the thoughts he's having and the things that he's hearing. And also, if you watch this part in the actual episode, when you watch it back, notice the sound. Because he's making some kind of, like, I can't tell if it's supposed to sound like the Purgle or if it's just supposed to sound like creepy voices or some kind of thing going on. But there's some weird stuff that he plays during this part that I think is meant to be the voice he's hearing or the conversations he's having or whatever he's being drawn to. It's meant to like be that, and it just plays in there, and it is really spooky. And this scene is great between them. Like, seriously, fantastic stuff. And he's just like shocked, like she's like she's like proud of him and like interested in the whole thing. He's explaining how he watched everything burn, the inevitability, it repeats over and over, and he wants to end the cycle. She's like, well, then it means it's our time, right? Like, we will, with Thrawn, now have the power. And he's like, that power is fleeting. That kind of power is fleeting. And he's just killing it, dude. Like, Rey is just chewing these scenes up. It is phenomenal stuff. What I seek is the beginning, so that I might finally bring this cycle to an end. And I mean, come on, man. So intriguing. In the middle of all the other dope stuff that's going on, we randomly get this dude's motivation being one of the most interesting things in the entire show. You know what I mean? One of the most interesting things in the entire show. And it's just really, really interesting. Now, this whole sequence here was really cool. They have her like trying to use the Force again, you know, which I wonder if she ever will. But I will just say I loved how they directed this scene. Now, of course, we're sort of paying homage here to A New Hope. And, you know, if you're a Star Wars fan, you know where I'm going with this. But the opening shot of A New Hope was something that people had just never seen before. That ship goes, and then the Star Destroyer goes, and then it just keeps going and going and going, and the scope of that, and it just, there was nothing like that before that opening scene of Star Wars, and it sets the tone, and it's absolutely incredible. And so this is like an homage to that. I absolutely love how it comes in on this sort of slit within her prison. It was fantastic. Then Baylan's just watching it, and this shot was so damn cool. Oh, it was so cool, dude. I absolutely loved it. And the gold on the Chimera. It just, there's this bizarre thing going on here. I absolutely love how it just lands in front of them with all the witches and everybody there. So interesting. And then we get the chanting of Thrawn, the music, and Thrawn's entrance. Finally. After so long, we finally get to see Lars as Thrawn, live action Thrawn. And there's some people apparently, like, I guess, body shaming or saying that they didn't like the look of Thrawn or something like that. Like, people were saying that on Twitter. And I'm like, that is ridiculous, in my opinion. Like, I feel like this dude's demeanor and the way he's walking and the way he's carrying himself it is intimidating. Like, oh man, how do I say this? Sometimes the most chill looking dude with his hands behind his back is the dude you got to worry about. And I felt like this guy moved with authority, and the entire thing was so spooky. And I kind of like how he was hunched over a little bit, because it's almost like it's almost like a kind of fantasy weird character that's like leaning down to you. Like, you know, you've seen that before, right? Like leaning down and like looking at you. I don't know. It kind of gave a cool vibe, but I thought this was fantastic. And we've been talking about the rumors for this part for like over a year. And we were like, well, what does this mean with like the gold in the, you know, the stormtroopers? What does this mean? This resurrected army, like all this stuff. We're like, what does this mean? Actually seeing it, like finally seeing like what it was, it was so, I was like really hyped. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I want these figures. I want these action. I haven't really wanted any Star Wars merchandise for a while. I want these night troopers. I want an Enoch. I want a Grand Admiral Thrawn. Maybe get some witches too. Like, dude, this shit was hype. And the music was perfect. It was such a hyped up part, man. I really liked Enoch's design, and the voice was fantastic. I'm skipping ahead a little bit here, but bro, when he tells Sabine, die well, before she leaves the base on the wolf, I was just like, fucking love this character, man. This character is awesome. And it's a sign of like how sometimes you don't need a ton of stuff with a character for an audience to be captivated by it. Sometimes less is more. And sometimes it's little moments. Little moments. We talked about this a couple of streams back. You know, people were saying like, oh, the Reva and the Shin thing. And I was like, well, there are all kinds of examples of characters that like, you're just characters in a fight scene. And maybe the one character drops their weapon. And the other character, that's a bad guy, still has a sense of honor, allows the hero to pick up the weapon to finish the fight. And it's a small moment, but it's a moment that can captivate an audience and be like, I like that character. That was cool when they did that. And I do think Enoch is that kind of character as well. That just does some dope stuff, and you're like, dude, I kind of like it. I kind of like it, bro. You know, same thing with Shin. Like, I think Shin has benefited from that as well. And then we get the first delivery line from Thrawn, which I thought was absolutely epic. And I felt like Thrawn, when I first saw him, right, on screen, I wasn't, like, in love with the blue. And even in some of the scenes now, I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. But it's the close-ups. It's the fact that he can do everything with his face, and it looks absolutely real and fantastic. So I think in the close-ups, the Thrawn stuff really shines. And some of the way that you can get that contrast across Lars's face, because, you know, he's got the high cheekbones, you know, he's got the big forehead, like, it's really interesting. And then they put that little glow in the red eyes. Oh, so fucking good. Yeah, I really liked it. So the first speech and whatnot was cool. And there's something interesting going on. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but when Thrawn is legitimately surprised that there's a loose thread. And we did not see it. It is a loose thread. And he is, to me, well, speak to me of this loose thread. It seemed to me, and I don't know, like he's doing a lot of like nuanced and focus and hold. Thrawn doesn't give too much away, but it makes for like interesting interpretations of the conversations, the dialogue, etc. It seemed to me that he was really surprised that there was this loose thread that they didn't see. And he was like kind of taken aback by it. You know what I mean? And then the Baylan skull Thrawn thing I thought was absolutely fantastic. Thrawn instantly knowing who he was, recognizing who he was. Very Thrawn thing to do. We're going to talk about the Ahsoka thing, because some people say, well, yeah, but he should have known about Ahsoka. We'll talk about that. Pretty interesting, man. He knew exactly who he was. They have like an interesting dialogue here. When he finds that it is Sabine, he agrees. She will be of use. And then this way that he like looks him up and down here was so interesting to me. Like this. Remember, one of the reasons Thrawn is so good at deducing information is because he literally sees way more than the human eye sees. So this is established in the Timothy Zahn books. Thrawn can see fluctuations in body heat, fluctuations in blood pressure. He has access to a lot more information than just a human looking at things. So Thrawn might instantly know homie was lying. He might have instantly known that he was trying to get something for himself. You know what I mean? And I love the little like look up and down and the little nod as he walked away. It just felt like, okay, Thrawn knows what's going on here. You know what I mean? Pretty cool. And I really like the depiction of Thrawn. Really cool bringing Sabine out, too. This conversation's really fun. Thrawn's really cool, and then Sabine's like, let's just get it moving. Which was interesting. And then we get this scene here, again, with, like, Enoch. Enoch, like, gives her weapons. She gets saddled up on the wolf mount. And they're sending her away. I want to find the part where he says, "Die well." Here are your weapons. It's cool. And he gives her the lightsaber next. Is this where he says it? Die well. Love that shit, dude. I was like, let's go, Enoch, my man. And then this shot of her riding out. It felt like almost Elden Ring-esque to me, man. Super high fantasy vibes going on in this episode, which I absolutely loved. Thought it was so cool. Then we get this kind of interesting conversation. Thrawn kind of telling it what it is, like Baylan and her about to go get him. Almost felt like he was just trying to get rid of them because he really doesn't trust the Jedi and whatnot. It was kind of cool. Again, you have Baylan kind of being, or Shin rather, being like, I thought we were gonna honor our agreement and stuff, right? So she's like, she is kind of clashing up against the sort of realism that you have going on with Baylan. You know what I mean? Then we get this sequence. I like this sequence. I thought it was fun because I do think you need a little bit of action here, and the nomads and the fighting here was fun. I like the armor. It's super samurai. You know what I mean? And then I wonder what is going on with these alien. Somebody brought up the fact that the Rakatan had hammerhead shark kind of vibes, right? And so it's possible that some of these guys were Rakatan and had this. But the only problem with that is I think their eyes were out there too. So why would they cover that up? You know what I mean? If that was actually where their eyes were at. So I don't think that's what it is. I will say, though, that, the crab people make me think, we'll get into the crab people in a second, the lobster crab people. They look a little bit like the Rakatan. And so I wouldn't be surprised. Like, it wouldn't surprise me that the Rakatan come from this planet. Maybe they evolved here or whatever. Because they're very fish-like as well. And it seems like there is a lot of water and... I mean, I don't know. If there's crab people, to me, it kind of tracks that there could be shark people. You know what I mean? And then they leave the castle. So cool, man. So cool. I really do dig these vibes. And again, so they're taking the bodies as per his agreement with the mothers. He is packing up all of these things from the catacombs. And they said it would take 3 days. 3 days to put all of them in to go there. Back to the OG galaxy. So, what's the deal with that? He made this deal with them. They've helped him to resurrect the troopers, right? This isn't established yet, but we kind of know this from some of the rumors. He has this arrangement with them. He's honoring it by bringing all these bodies, and then they're going to go back into the regular galaxy. Well, what's up with these bodies? Are these bodies that they plan on resurrecting? Are these like Zabrak or something like that? That would be wild. I don't know. Is it just old Night Sisters? That would be very wild as well. I wonder how this ties into what Baylan is hearing. And the fact that Shin has picked up on the fact that the Night Sisters want a GTFO. Right? So the Night Sisters apparently want to go. And Baylan even says perhaps they fear a power greater than their own. Are they so afraid that they're taking bodies? I don't know. But you know what it could be, guys? And this is just a theory. Okay? Do you know what it could be? I believe the Rakatan would sometimes capture Force sensitives and use them as batteries, siphoning off their Force energy to fuel their Dark Force technology. trying to find a picture of it. Yeah. I'd have to find it. It's in the old Dawn of the Jedi. Comic. Yeah, Dawn of the Jedi. But I think it was even before that. I'd have to find it again. But yeah, so that kind of popped into my head. And I was like, that would be so freaking wild. Like, what if those are like Night Sisters that the Rakatan were just using as batteries? You know what I mean? Or other Force users or something like that. That's in KOTOR as well? That would be pretty crazy. I don't know. We'll see. Either way, it's pretty intriguing and it's pretty cool, man. I thought this part was kind of interesting because there's this moment where he like pauses, right? Okay, so watch this. Prepare 2 squads. Wait for Lord Baylan's signal. And then she says, should we not send more troops to support them? And watch, it's so interesting because he like doubles back on her. And then this pause right here. I was like, what is that, dude? During this exile, our numbers have dwindled. I think he might be like not telling her the truth either. Because I think he didn't want to resurrect more troops. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, a lot of this is just my speculation, of course. But I'm, like, reading into this a little bit, and it really seems like he doesn't want to resurrect more troops. He'd rather just use 2 squads. But then later on, he said, like, he at the end of the episode says, it's time to use your dark magic again, bitches. But he's basically telling her, like, it doesn't matter if they're here. We just need to escape this galaxy. We need to escape this exile. And then we get like a pretty nice adventure part of the episode with Sabine. A little bit of beef with her wolf mount. They find the turtle people or the shell people. I got to be honest, like I really like these sequences. I thought they were good. Like I said before, I didn't love Natasha in the first 3 episodes. I feel like she's done incredibly well since then, and I feel like, especially because she's basically here acting against puppets and green screen and maybe horses and like, you know, she's really doing a great job and playing with these subtle movements and attitude. It was good. I was like, this is cool stuff. It's very Star Wars. It's very adventure. It's goofy, weird puppet crab people. And of course that's where Ezra's at. Hanging with the crab people, of course. Avi. And then we get to this scene where he's tracking her down. And again, I just loved how, like, just captured in the moment he is. I think you hear some of the that weird alien dialogue or music or whatever again in these shots. And this scene right here, I miss the idea of it. It was so cool, man. Really interesting. And we, of course, get some of the stuff where he's like, perhaps they flee a power. And you clearly see one here. He's talking about there's no future, like with Thrawn and all that, right? In this wasteland. She's like not with it. You know what I mean? Like she's like not feeling it. I see what was once the great witch kingdom of the Dathomiri. The old mothers. The existence of the great mothers confirms this. And then what Shin says back is so interesting because she's like, they seem really eager to GTFO, bro. You know, another thing that I noticed about this show that's kind of interesting, I feel like there's a lot of ADR stuff because there's really good dialogue and audio that happens in like really pulled away shots. I'll show you some of the examples with Ezra later. When I watched the second or third time, I was like, damn, like, some of the best lines are actually happening when you don't actually see the actor. It's really interesting. But anyway, they seem eager to leave this place. Maybe we should too. And like, you just feel that whole, like, she's not with it. She's not feeling the vibes. She's like, this is not cool. This is not good. And then Baylan says maybe the most interesting line in the entire series. Perhaps they flee a power greater than their own. Something calls to me. I just got to keep pausing for copyright, so I'm sorry if it's jarring. Something calls to me. Can you hear it? Can't you hear it? Something stirs here. Bro. What is it? What is it? Yeah, it's so interesting. Really cool. And then this is fun. You see the shot of them, and I think one of them is the one that, yeah, this is the same one that she injured in the eye. Sabine did. And then we get the whole village sequence here, right? And I thought Ezra, he delivered the lines perfect. He sounded exactly like Ezra Bridger. The cadence, the speech patterns, just everything. I was like, damn, dude, like, he absolutely nailed it. It was incredibly well written. As a big fan of the Ezra character, as a big Rebels fan, this was a big moment. The music hit right. It felt very Star Wars. I know not everybody, like, just loves these characters right off the bat, because not everybody has seen those shows. But for somebody like me that has, this was awesome, dude. Like, awesome. And I really like the look of Ezra. I like what they did with him. The contacts are pretty intense, but I think it works. I think that is Ezra, and I think it'll work, you know, with the craziness of his eyes. It's such an interesting outfit too, because he almost has this chainmail like underneath. I wonder what that's about. Seems like he's ready to do some forced karate to me. So I'm pretty interested to see that. Good moment, man. Good moment. Really cool. He's like, there's a lot. I have so many questions. This is what I was talking about, because a lot of the dialogue here, like, I'll show you. So from here on, there's like a couple of lines that are delivered that are really good, and you like don't see them actually deliver them. Like, you have your own a brand of Rebels. I have so many questions. Like, even this shot, you're riding a howler. How did that happen? And how did you find me? Like, all these lines and everything it's all, I don't know. It feels like it was all ADR, to be honest with you. But, yeah, I thought I liked it. Now, she doesn't tell him how she got there right away. It's like she just wants to have the moment after it had been so long. You know, I just want to have the moment. And obviously, like, that ship's going to sail because the bandits, Baylan, Shin, they're all on the way. Okay? So it's going to be a pretty harsh awakening, a bitch slap of truth. Like, that shit's going to come out really, really quick. But for now, I think she just wants to chill, and she just wants to be with Ezra. And then I imagine she would explain it to him really soon, because she does understand that their last chance to actually get home is going to be that shuttle or that Star Destroyer. Right? So, yeah. It's like recording that you're not like there. It's like when Pedro does all his recording for The Mandalorian. That's ADR. I think it's just additional recording. I'm not 100%. But yeah, so it's fine. You know, she doesn't want to tell him that shit. That is going to go away pretty quick. I also felt like, and it could just be me, I also felt like there's something going on with Ezra. I feel like there's something he's not telling her either. Perhaps connected to that same thing that Baylan is talking about. There's no serious indication that this is the case. It's just a vibe. It's just a feeling I have. So they might both be hiding things from each other. We'll see. And we come back, and this is where they're like, yo, she's on her way. Maybe Ahsoka's alive. and it ends of your dark magic. And I want to watch this with you guys. I've seen this a couple of times now. I get the feeling that he doesn't love the fact that he has to do this again. Like, do you think he gulps there? He's obviously keeping a pressed face because he's Thrawn. But it looked to me a little bit like he did not want this to happen. What do you think? So crazy. Oh, shit. I fucked that up. But, yeah, that's a cool way to end it, man. Gonna use some more magic, so we're gonna probably see more crazy magic next week. I am down. I'm down. So, like I said, there's a lot that I like in the episode. I think this is the way that it should be with Star Wars from here on out. And it's a cool way to push things forward. It's familiar, but it's different. There's new stuff going on, but at the end of the day, it still feels like Star Wars. And yeah, I don't think anybody's nailed that except for Dave in this show. It's really cool. So, let's get into the Q&A, guys. Let's get into the Q&A. Let's talk about what y'all want to talk about. Let me get this pulled up. And I'll start going through this stuff. We'll do the member chats, the super chats, and we'll hang in the chat a little bit as well, okay? All right, cool. Dougie Jones says, episode so good. I bought the damn Lego sets. Wow, okay. Yeah, I might have to look into some of that myself because I feel the same way, man. I'm like, damn, so good. I need. Joseph says, give Dave all the toys. That's it. Movies next. Absolute fire. Dude, I 100% agree with you. And he deserves to get, like, they should go right into his movie and beyond that. Like, dude, you just need to be trusting him more. Like, and just letting him guide these creative decisions because this is fan-freaking-tastic stuff. I'm loving what we're getting here. Secrets Hidden in the Sand says, with every passing episode, I get sadder and sadder about the passing of Rey. Baylan was such a compelling character, and Rey has been so good. It's true. It's true. It's one of those weird things about the show because it is unfortunate. And it's almost like you can't appreciate it without being reminded of the tragedy. But, you know, I just try to be like, damn, like he really left us with something special, you know, and like that's awesome. So thank you, Ray. Jordan says, Theory said he doesn't understand what's so special about Ezra. Mid Jedi, not even top 100. Did I watch a different Rebels? Yeah, I think he's a little bit of an Ezra hater, and I don't think he really likes Rebels. So, I mean, like that tracks for me. I've said this before, but I think Ezra's like maybe my favorite Jedi. I love that kid, man. I feel the way about Ezra the same way that Hondo ends up feeling about him by the end of the show. When Hondo's basically like, for this kid, though, I would do the things I normally wouldn't do, right? I really like Ezra. And as a big fan of Rebels, I was like, dude, this is awesome. And by the way, if you don't like Ezra, that's cool. We got 2 episodes left. I think you might love him by the end of the show. That's all I'm saying. It's going to be hype. Skywalker Crew says, Ahsoka has been great. Then Loki season 2 following. W. I agree. I'm excited for Loki too. It's like in the middle of all this bad stuff happening with Marvel and Star Wars, we like randomly have 2 pretty awesome projects back to back that I'm genuinely excited about. So let's get it. Obi says, I think the small crab race is a variation evolution of the ricotta. I said that. Ricotta race have 3 pincers as hands, and they also have eyes very similar. Dude, I totally agree with you. I think it could be setting that up. Vandalf the Black says, got a feeling Ezra is influenced by Night Sister magic. I think he's Enoch, but magic linked the armor controls him. I think Sabine can save him. That's kind of a fun theory. I definitely get the vibe that something weird is going on with Ezra. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's connected to Enoch, but it very well could be connected to the Night Sisters. There's so many questions here, like, why do the Night Sisters want to get out of there so badly? Why was Thrawn not on Peridea? Like, what the hell's up with Peridea, dude? You know, it's kind of interesting. JJ Lamont says, I think she was smelling Jedi on Baylan, but he used Sabine as a scapegoat. It absolutely could be that as well. That would be interesting. Or it could just be Ahsoka's stank on her. Never Lose Your Nerd says, I surprisingly didn't have the emotional reaction to Ezra showing up that I thought I would. I love the episode, though, and it continues to get better. That's awesome, man. Yeah, no, I mean, I had an emotional reaction to it. It didn't, like, hit me deep. Like, I wasn't, like, brought to tears or anything like that, but it felt perfectly Star Wars. The reunion felt perfectly Star Wars, and that man, it just felt like the characters that I'd watched for years, like right there on the screen in live action. It was interesting. Ryan Epps, thanks for the 10, man. Obi says, Baylan monologue scene with Shin has wolves howling. Skull, a Thorian, chases the sun. Skull chases the son brother. Ah, okay. Yeah, I kind of like that. That could be the case. I don't think they're going to do a Mortis God there. Be really interesting if they did, but I don't think so. Fat Naked Jimmy Neutron says, what do you think Thrawn's true motives are? I doubt he's doing what he's doing just because he's the bad guy and wants to rule the galaxy. The greater threat thing is definitely still on the table. I'm not sure. He definitely wants to get out of that galaxy. And he wants to set up the future of our galaxy. I don't know. There's some depth going on in those scenes, and perhaps we'll understand the nuance of the performance by Lars like later on. Maybe once we know more in the next 2 episodes, we'll look back and be like, oh, that's what he said. That's why he said that. That's what he meant, you know? I don't know. Because like there's this moment, for instance, where he's like kind of shocked at how the fate of their galaxy is going to be forever changed because of her belief. But it didn't strike me like he was being condescending. And she was like, you wouldn't understand. And it felt like he was literally like, perhaps not. Like, it didn't feel like he was trying to be a dick. It was almost more like he was in awe of how it was all coming together, you know? Elijah says, I never read the book, so feel free to go into Thrawn book tangents so I can learn more about his character. I didn't even know he can see extra stuff. Yeah, definitely, man. I guess I could try to put that into like a fully fledged video, but I do recommend those books, especially like I really like the one with Anakin and Vader. It goes back and forth between the two of them. But the first Thrawn book really sets up a lot about his character. So Thrawn is essentially found by the Empire, like in exile, and I forget exactly what he does, but he like tricks this outpost he either like tricks them into thinking that there's this big threat, that they're under attack, and then he like infiltrates in to like gain their respect, or he does something similar like that. He like proves his worth immediately to this group of Imperials, and his whole reason for being there and everything was he wanted to get in the Emperor's good graces, and he wanted to become the greatest general and asset to the Emperor. But his real purpose was so that his people, the Chiss, would gain the protection of the Empire against like this greater threat, which is implied to be the Grisk. It's implied to be, you know, maybe something else, but so that happens, and then yeah, he has access to all this other information because of his biology. And he's really shitty at politics, but he's really good at strategy and understanding his opponent. He's like Sherlock Holmes. So that's kind of the TLDR on it. Big Guesses says, congrats on Unity, brother. Much love from the land down under. P.S. Stoked that Ahsoka is slapping. Hell yeah, brother. It's slapping for me. Slapping for me, and I appreciate the support. Kyle says, when Sabine said you wouldn't understand my motives, he said, I wouldn't be so sure, because he can relate since he joined the Empire to secure for his future people. I don't think he said that. I think he said perhaps not. Let me try to go back to that moment. On that belief, you wouldn't understand. And he's like looking at her, and he says perhaps not. Yeah, he says perhaps not. He doesn't say that he would. Kyle follows up, though, and says, I hope he speaks on this since he has the same type of transactional relationship with the witches. Yeah, I think you got that one a little bit wrong, bro, but I kind of feel where you're coming from, like his greater good mentality. And I do think they will explore that more. Brody says, I think Abeloth is calling to Baylan. She lured Jedi. That is interesting, and that is true. She did lure the Jedi. That's crazy. That would be nuts. JR16 says, you think Ezra's really strong in the Force now? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And I think he might know some new tricks. Theory thinks Thrawn wants to resurrect a Sith Lord. It's possible. That could be fun. Tobin says, with a 10 spot, Lars is absolutely diabolical. He easily has one of the cleanest performance translation from animation to live action. Feels 100% like the same character, although I think he looks more like Book Thrawn. Yeah, I agree, man. I thought he killed it. It was fantastic. Thanks for the 10, man. Another slapper, says Chillin. Gonna miss Ray when the show is over. I can't wait to see the viewership numbers. I bet they skyrocket after episode 4. Nerdventure for life. Take my money. I think so too, man. I think after episode 4, it's definitely gonna be picking up, and it's good word of mouth. Episode 6 was fantastic, man. I've been trying to talk it up. Zoe the Goat says, I think Jason will be Ezra's Padawan at the end of the show. Thoughts? That would be really cool, man. I would like that. Man, that would be so cool. Yeah. That would be fun. Tyson with a 10 spot says, I bet that Thrawn will try to kill Baylan because Ahsoka survived. I think that him and Shin will end up teaming with Ahsoka to fight against Thrawn. Maybe some Sith character. Yeah, we'll have to see. I think it seems like they're setting up Shin maybe for a little bit of a turn. You know what I mean? Maybe. I don't know. It's interesting nonetheless, though. Callisto says, interesting that Thrawn's map looks like the Rakatan star map because Freeman Cooper has theorized that Starforge is calling to Baylan as it called to Revan. Perhaps he's using Thrawn to get to the Starforge. Ooh, I like that. That's really cool. I'll have to do some research into that because I want to do a video on that tomorrow, but that is incredibly interesting. Thanks for the 20, Callisto. Holy shit. Patrick Hanlon says, I think Ezra worked a deal with him to be set free on this world in exchange for his blood to create a Force being that will have his own Inquisitors or Force user crew army in it. Ezra and the Night Sisters made a clone of him. That would be bananas. I'm not going to lie. That would be absolutely bananas. I kind of like it, but also, I don't know. I don't know. That's interesting. Sean, welcome to the Nerdvengers, baby. You are a Nerdvenger now. Shin is a hottie. Shin is a hottie, man. You ain't lying. You ain't lying. You ain't lying. So what else is on your mind, guys? Anything else on your mind? Any other questions before we wrap it up here? I am incredibly tired. I'm exhausted. I didn't sleep that much. I'm tired. Are we having a diamond stream for the celebration? We're going to have another diamond stream next month. I don't think we're going to have one this week, though. Where is Eli Vanto? Is he safe? Is he all right? I think Eli Vanto is probably with the Chiss Higher Ascendancy. I bet we'd see him in the movie. Maybe even in the next series or something. I'm not really sure. But, yeah. The planets feel like the setting in the Old Testament of the Star Wars universe. I agree with that. How many of you think that this planet, Peridea, was probably and might still be something that was explored in James Mangold's Star Wars film? Because if you remember, he described it as a biblical epic. Which ties to me, I mean, again, I strongly feel that the whole 3-movie announcement thing was Dave's idea. Maybe not the Rey movie, but the whole idea of, like, let's go back and let's go forward, you know? Connecting it all to the past. It'd be interesting. Possibly. Look at the bigger picture, man. Night Sisters want to leave their galaxy is destroyed. It raises the question, who destroyed their world and their empire? The Vong will show up at the end. I like it a lot. I think you're right. It does It does beg those questions. You know? So, yeah, I think that's absolutely could be the way that is. The Vong, the Rakatan, it could be any of those, right? Robert V says, congrats on Unity. Now, where are those feet pics for the stretch goal that I was promised? Oh, dude, I can't. I'm sorry. My wife said I can't do it. Welcome to the Nerdvengers. You are a Nerdvenger now. I hope I pronounced your name right. The Exodus says, think they'll tell us where/how Baylan found Shin? That's a good question. I don't know. I think they might imply it. It's already kind of implied. You know what I mean? But, yeah, maybe they'll do even like a book or something about it. It's crazy because we might unfortunately have to do a lot of future Baylan stuff in a book or maybe an animation. Or if they find a really great recast, you know, they could do that. I like the Gerard Butler one. So, yeah. Can anyone appreciate Loth wolves being so cute, especially CGI personality? I don't think those are technically Loth wolves, but I did think they were awesome. I thought they were great. Do you think Peridea could have been a temple back in the Old Republic, and that's why Baylan is feeling, the statues give me that feeling. It seems similar to what we've seen on Jeddah, some of these other things, so yeah, it could, man. If Ezra's been trained by a Rakatan, doesn't that make my theory more plausible? It does. It does, yeah. He would certainly be learning dark side stuff from the Rakatan. Unless it was like... I don't 100% know. It could be the case that maybe there were some Rakatan that were more balanced, but in the lore, they're taught balance by the Kwa, and then they're like, fuck that, we like the dark side. You know what I mean? And they betray the Kwa. So I don't know. All right, guys. I'm going to get on out of here. I really appreciate you guys. Big video coming out tomorrow about Baylan and what he's sensing. I'm going to really dive deeply on that, give you a really fun edited video put together about that. I might even do one about the Night Sisters and the boxes and the resurrection over the weekend. I'm not really sure. We'll be streaming Friday morning. And I really appreciate all the support on Unity, guys. Thank you so much. Gonna get to work on that as well, okay? So thank you. Much love. And as I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, JB. Is everybody gone? Did everybody leave? Oh, sorry. Gotta poop. Sorry. Hey, Unity! Man, fire-ass Ahsoka episodes. It's been a good month, man. I did not expect to be loving this show like this. Started out a little shaky, started out a little slow, and oh my God, have we arrived. Incredible month, raising money for Unity. I'm so damn excited to get started on that. We're really going to change the game, man. This is going to be a big deal. It's just starting. It's not over. It's just starting. I appreciate you. Appreciate your attention. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the support, likes, subscribes, comments in the chat. Of course, the members, the super chats. Much love, everybody. Remember, open up that third eye and wash out your stinky poop hole. I'll see you later.